Good morning. You're all very welcome. Just to let you know, we're just letting a few people into the lobby, so we'll be starting in about 1 minute. Hi, everybody. Just to let you know, we're letting some people into the lobby. So we haven't started presenting yet. If you can't hear anything, it's because we're waiting for people to join us. So hopefully we'll get kicking off in another minute. We're going to give it 1 more minute. Okay, so I think we can start. I just want to say good morning to everybody and thank you for joining our webinar today. We've over 97 people here and we're expecting a few others to join. Um, we just wanted to say, first of all, a big welcome to everybody, and we hope that you will get something really valuable from today's session. The current setup today will be for one. Sorry, there's messages coming in here at the moment. The setup we'll be running for 1 hour, and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. Today, I'll give you a very short overview of Peace Plus. Emma Fallis, our Managing Authority Eligibility Manager, is going to talk about expenditure and costs and procurement. And Una Bradley, our MA Finance Manager, is going to talk about partner reporting, control and audit, and retention of documents. And then we'll go into the Q&A. I want to say just about the Q&A, as we present, we won't be taken away from our presentation. The Q&A will be structured and we'll manage it after the presentation. When the slides are finished, I'm going to go into the Q&A and we'll take them actively, as many as we can. Conscious we've got nearly 100 people here today, so if we don't get through all your questions, we're going to pull them out of the Q&A and we're going to pull them out of the Q&A and we'll follow them. I just want to check, because everybody hear me okay? Yes, I've just got a message there to say. So, without further ado, we'll move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so we're here, I suppose, to remind ourselves why we're here. We're here for Peace Plus. And as you know, there'll be a lot of projects in the room who have managed some of our previous programs from the Peace and the Interreg programs. And you know that there's been 3.39 billion, which has been invested through these previous programs. I love this stat because we funded over 23,000 projects and we've touched the lives of more than 2 million citizens, which I really think is truly remarkable. So we're now in a very exciting time for Peace Plus. We're going to continue to provide this vital support to Northern Ireland and the border counties. And this time we have an investment of £1.14 billion. The focus is to embed peace and prosperity across the region. And we have to say that we've reached this point through detailed process of collaboration with the governments, with the Northern Ireland Executive, the Government of Ireland, the UK, and the European Union. So it's a really exciting time. You'll know that we've got 22 investment areas, and so far we have 57 approved projects on this webinar today. We continue to commit funds, and we've committed up to 60% of the Peace Plus monies to date. I think 36 approved projects are here today. We have 57 approved thus far. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So you'll have approved projects, so you'll know that you're going to fall into one of these themes and investment areas. Okay. In the room today, we have quite a number of people from every call, actually, from all the various themes. And you're very welcome. We know that Our programmes are supporting a range of sectors which include health and social care, the environment, rural regeneration, and smart towns and villages. At this point, it would be fair to say that there is a cohort of programmes or projects in this webinar today who've already had a face-to-face training session with us. And then there are some new programs and projects on today. So for the new people, we will be having a face-to-face session with you early in the new year. So we probably will recap on some of this. We're going to take some learnings and we'll continue to roll out webinars to all of the projects over the course of the coming months. Today is the first one. Today is about eligibility and expenditure and procurement, and we really hope that you get some value from this. We look forward to working with you. We look forward to supporting you and delivering the objectives of your projects in partnership with SEUPB. So thank you very much for joining. I'm going to pass you over to Emma Fallis, who's going to take you through the crux of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre. I'm going to sort of touch on really what the programme manual is. So the PEACEPLUS programme manual, you would have all had access to it when you're putting in your application for funding. And the programme manual offers guidance and instructions on all stages of the project lifecycle. Version 8 of the manual was published there on the 13th of November, and you can access that through our support portal. And as Deirdre was saying, we're focusing today on eligibility of expenditure. So what we're going to take is a walk through and use the programme manual as our guide to sort of discuss the different areas that and pull out the key points of learning and the key points that you need to be mindful of now when you're moving through the implementation of your project. So Chapter 5 within the programme manual looks at project implementation, and that includes partner reporting, and you'll hear from Una later on in relation to that. Chapter 6 focuses on the financial rules and eligibility of costs. And then there's annexes then. Annex 1 includes fact sheets, and that covers simplified cost options and also a fact sheet for each of the different cost categories. And then there's an Annex 2 then relates to the procurement thresholds. So the programme manual is something that you should be keeping, having to hand. As I say, it's an over 200-page document with 8 different chapters, and we're focusing today on chapters 5 and 6. So eligibility of expenditure, there's a number of general principles, and this relates to then section 6.1 of the programme manual. So eligibility of expenditure is based on types of costs, so that's the cost categories, and we'll look at those later on. The forms of contribution, and that really is the simplified cost options or rail costs, the method by which you reclaim your expenditure from the programme. It also relates then to eligibility period, and the eligibility period for the entire programme is up until December 2029, but each project will have their own individual eligibility period, and that will be described in your letter of offer. So you will have a start date and an end date, and all your expenditure must be incurred during that period of time in order to be considered eligible for your project. And another area then you need to think of is then the types of activities and their connection to the project. So in the programme manual, it describes the different cost categories and what is eligible under cost categories, but not every project will have the same type of expenditure eligible for them, because it has to relate to the focus of your project and the type of what your approval and what your aim that you're looking to achieve, and that making sure then that there's a connection between the expenditure that you're incurring and the project that you've been approved for. There are then 3 general principles then that cost must comply with. Cost must be incurred by a partner. And so that as I was saying, that you have to have incurred that during your project period. Sound financial management should be respected, and also cost efficiency. You need to make sure then that you're making the best value for your money, and you're implementing your project in an efficient manner, and making sure that value for money is always at the forefront, and also in relation to no double funding. There also then is that you have to be mindful of, there is rules that you have to make sure you adhere to. As a programme, we want all projects to be reimbursed for all the costs that they incur, but there is rules that need to be acknowledged and respected. So these are known as the hierarchy of rules, and there's 3 different levels of eligibility. There's the European rules, which then there's a number of regulations that the Commission have imposed on Interreg programmes. Then we have the programme rules, and that's the PEACEPLUS programme rules. And we have to ensure that that they are specific to our programme. Whenever the PEACEPLUS programme was approved by the Commission, we have identified what areas of support that we are looking to benefit and improve the lives of people in our region. And then there is the national rules, and the rules are respected in that manner, that the European rules come first, then there's the PEACEPLUS rules, and then there is the national rules. So again, it's a pyramid structure, but we have to make sure then that always the most stringent rules always are applying. Eligibility, there's a number of then general principles in relation to then every item of expenditure must comply with both EU, programme and national rules. There needs to be a clear link between the project, and it needs to be essential for the delivery of your project activities. So if your project was approved if it's research, you wouldn't expect maybe to be purchasing something that relates to maybe some vehicles or soft skills. So you just need to make sure that you're mindful of whatever your application of funding is, you have got approved on that basis. And also as well, everything then falls within the call document. So the call document will also have determined what the focus of that area and that you're implementing your project towards. You need to make sure then that you comply with the approved costs within each of the cost categories. And the cost categories, as which I'll be touching on later on, there's a fact sheet in the back of the programme manual that relates to that. But each of those fact sheets are based on an article within one of the European regulations, which makes it very clear what types of costs are eligible under each cost category. Partners also need to make sure that expenditure then is identifiable, verifiable and documented. You need to make sure that you have an appropriate audit trail to support every item of expenditure you're claiming. And without an appropriate audit trail, unfortunately, that expenditure then wouldn't be able to be reimbursed by the programme. Again, projects must ensure that all expenditures incurred during their eligibility period, and that's described in your letter of offer. One of the things to note this time round as well is that each project will have their own independent controller, and you need to ensure also the costs of that controller are also incurred within your eligibility period. So you need to make sure then that your final claims that you have them submitted to your controller in advance of your end date, and making sure that you can reimburse then the controller after they've undertaken that final piece of work. Also, costs then need to be identifiable in your accounts. So you need to be able to show that they have cleared your bank account, or you have an adequate accounting code or cost centre report that will show that those costs have actually been incurred. And unless those costs have been incurred by the partner themselves, they can't actually be reimbursed by the programme. Again, public procurement is one of the areas that is of most importance and forefront in a lot of projects' minds, because there can be things that can go wrong. So you need to ensure that you are complying with those rules. Also, double funding isn't allowed. And this is more prevalent now whenever there is more introduction of simplified cost options. So you need to make sure then that any expenditure you're claiming from the programme, it hasn't been reimbursed by another source of funding, or is already covered by one of the simplified cost options which has been approved for your project. So the types of costs or can be described as the forms of contribution. This is covered in section 6.1.2 of the programme manual. But there's two types of costs: real costs and simplified costs. So the real costs are the actual project expenditure that have been incurred by the partner. All costs incurred must relate to invoices, payments made to an organisation or a supplier external to the partnership. So that's one of the key points that we need to make sure, is that projects do not engage with a partner to undertake any project related activity.